Okay, question two. Money. This is going to come up quite a bit. So there's a few things you want to do with these questions. I like to tick things off as I do them, and I sometimes write in the words as to what's happening as well, just to get it clear in my head. So Paul usually works 30 hours a week. He's paid time and a half. Now that's an important phrase. So let's get time and a half there. Okay. Time and a half for his additional. Okay. His basic. So basic is 12 and 37 and 30. Okay. So these are all the key points that we're looking at. Now, if you're not sure about money, you're thinking there's two components to your pay. Okay, so your gross pay is going to be equal to your standard pay, just what you get for doing your regular job, and your extra, effectively, your overtime or your extra, something like that. Okay, so in your head, don't be confused by words like gross. That just means like total. Fancy way of saying total. Okay, you sometimes hear the phrase net pay, and that's if you've got your gross pay. And it's like, well, what comes off after your gross pay? So once I get paid, I've got to worry about my pension. My pension comes off, that goes into the bank. Kind of. My taxes, so I've got my national insurance comes off, and I've also got my income tax that comes off. Yeah. So people talk about their gross pay, and then after all of these things have come off, you end up with your net pay. So it's a bit like just this is your headline figure, and this is actually what you get. What you're netting. If you're a fisherman, what's actually in the net? Never mind what's in the ocean, which is this. What's in the net. What you getting on the boat. So yeah, gross pay is your standard and your extra. And how do you calculate your pay? Well, don't know if you've got a part-time job. I used to have a few. You get your pay per hour. So say you're getting £5. Well, first it was £3 an hour, £5 an hour, something like that. And simply you will then multiply that by the time, how long you're working. Yeah. So obviously you want a bigger hourly rate. The bigger the hourly rate, the more money you're going to make. Or maybe if you one day have a job where you get a huge hourly rate and you won't work very often, whatever. But your pay is your rate multiplied by your time. So let me just write actually rate in there. So yeah, your rate multiplied by your time. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to say, okay, well, what's my rate multiplied by my time? And to that, I'm going to add, that's an old bracket, I'm going to add my other rate. So that's like my overtime rate multiplied by the time as well. So we said the standard rate, basic rate of pay is £12.50. So I'm getting £12.50 normally, and he usually works 30 hours a week. So that's his standard amount of time. Okay. And then is there any extra hours? Well, yeah, there is, because he did 37. So he did 7 above and beyond as usual. Yeah. So 7's his extra. And what's his rate for that? Well, it says time and a half. So that's a phrase we like to use, folk. It's a function of what you get paid. There's not a standard overtime rate, because maybe in your organisation there's 20 different people getting paid 20 different things. So you can't just say the overtime rate is whatever it is. You have to say, well, it's a bit more of your usual to try and incentivise you to do it. So for example, if you're earning £10 an hour and someone says time and a half, well, it means you're adding on an extra 50% to that time and a half. Yeah, 1.5. So your one's your regular, and the half is half of this. So 50% in this case would be 5. So you're left with £15 an hour. You're adding on half of your amount. That's what time and a half means. In the same way, time and a quarter would be adding on a quarter of this amount. Now, how do you do that in a calculator? Well, if I just so you know, it's a calculator paper. £10 an hour. You multiply that by 1.5. All you do is multiply it by, and I'll write this actually, your percentage divided by, well, 1 plus your percentage divided by 100. Yeah. So in that case, it's going to be 10 multiplied by 1 plus, and it's 50% extra we're getting, divided by 100. So that'll come out as 1.5. So if you do a calculator paper, that's that's how you work out your amounts. So that'd be times 1.5. Over time, you just start to figure these numbers out. You get quite comfortable. So if you're getting an extra 20%, you would say, well, it's 10 times 1.2. Yeah, that's 20%. Extra, if it's 10% extra, you say 10 times 1.1, that's 10% extra. Just watch out for something like a very small increase. If it was something like a 1% increase, that'd be 10 times 1.01 or 1.02 for 2. Okay, so just watch out for that when you're doing your calculator work. Anyway, for us, our rate is 12.5, and we're going to do 12.5 multiplied by 1.5 because we've got time and a half. Now, I can multiply the rate or I can multiply the hours, doesn't matter. The point is, I need to make sure this is multiplied by 1.5. So let's have a look then. The first one, how do we do this? Decimals. People hate doing this, But anyway, it's not that bad. Right? Times them by 30 means times them by 10 and times them by 3. So on my next line, I'm going to say that's the same as 12.50 multiplied by 10 multiplied by 3. So if I times it by 10, I'm just moving the decimal. There we go. So I've done the 10. And times them by 3, you could do a little chimney sum if you want. In my head, I think, well, that's 3 times 100, which is 300, and 3 25s are 75. If you want, do a little chimney sum at the side, and you're doing 3 times 5, 3 times 2, and 3 times 1. Yeah, so you'd say 15, 6 and 7, and 3. Same thing, yeah. So we've got £375 for that. And to that, we're going to add this. Now, what's the easiest way of doing this? It's not, again, if you think about adding on half of this, I can kind of get my head around that. I could say over here, okay, well, 12.5 is my 100%, and I want to get 50%, so I'm dividing by 2. So 12 divided by 2 is 6, and 5 divided by 2 is 6.25. So if I want 150%, which is my time and a half, I just add them together. And I'm going to be careful and just draw that out so I can do it as a nice chimney sum for you. So that's 12.50, and I said it was 6.25. So see, everything's just in a nice row, nice and neat. So there's 5, there's 7, there's 8, and there's 1. So that's 1875. That'd be right. Multiplied by 7. So same again, I would say 1875. I'll do it down here. I'll do it up here actually. I maybe need to work on the order of my work, but okay. So 7 5s, 35. 7 7s, 49, plus the 3 for 52. 7 8s are 56, plus the 1 for 61. And 7 1s are 7, plus the 1 for that. I'll just put a decimal in there. So that's going to come out as 131.25. Now if we add them together, so we'll just keep that line of working there. If we add them together, I'll just do a little chimney sum, 375.00. And I would do 2 decimal places for money as well. Money's always 2 decimal places. See, so I've got my 0.25, I've got 6, carry the 1, and 3 4 5. So 506.25. Share time. 2 minutes to go. So yeah, when I'm talking a lot through this, there's not a lot in this. I think the main point here is just taking your time with your rates and your time. Okay, don't rush it now. Good news here, you're getting a mark for calculating the basic pay, so without worrying about all this time and a half stuff, you're getting a tick there. Fantastic. And you're also getting a mark for just setting out your stall here. Just for knowing this, you are getting a mark. And then you're getting your final mark for actually putting it together. So I think this is quite an easy calculation, and I think this line here is not a difficult place to get to. I can understand if you don't like multiplying decimals, and maybe you might make a little mistake in your multiplication or addition here, fair play. But this is a lot simpler, and this line isn't too bad either, just picking out the numbers from the question. So give the marker a chance to give you some marks. Don't just write down random sums, feed it to them, show them what you're doing. And actually here, I probably should have need to around the sides. I'll try and get better with that. But yeah, get your strategy, have a think, read through the question and tick stuff off. Okay, on to the next one.